going to be changing out this garbage disposal that has locked up for the last time. I'm going to do a walkthrough of the process. So first thing I've got to do is go to the breaker box and turn off the power to the unit so that I can disconnect the 110 wiring that runs in, and then I'll begin disconnecting my plumbing. This one's pretty simple. You have a drain for your sink, and then you have a drain for the dishwasher, which is right beside it. So this is a InSinkErator, half horse, and it's lasted for quite a while. I'll have to look at the date on it to see exactly how old it is, but I know it's been in here probably 10 years. So anyway, I'll go to the breaker box and turn off the breaker, come back and start disconnecting. Okay, so this is pretty typical for a breaker box. I have two separate breakers that are labeled for kitchen plugs and one that's labeled for the washer, dishwasher that is. So I've turned off all three of those because I'm not sure which one of them it's on, and then I'll go upstairs and flip the switch and see if that turned the power off or not. Okay, so that did not turn it off, and here's how I know. Flip the switch, you hear it humming. Okay, it's going to continue to hum until either the reset, which is right there, the red button. That's the reset button. So either that reset button is going to pop, or I'll turn the switch off. Either way, that stops it from humming. So it wasn't either one of those power sources, which means it's going to be probably an unmarked breaker. So the fun part is I get to go through each breaker one at a time, figure out which one it is, label it so that next time I won't have to do that again. So that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, so I finally found the breaker, verifying that the power's off. Okay, so it's dead. So now I can disconnect that. So I've got to open that up right there. There's a little cover. You can see the one black screw. Take that screw out, take the cover off, and disconnect the two wires that run in. Okay, with the excess cover off, and I also have the clamp loosened up that holds the wire in place, so you can see the two wires in there, two yellow wire nuts. So I'm going to pull that out, disconnect those, pull my wiring out, and then I can disconnect my plumbing and remove it from the sink. So my wiring's disconnected and pushed off to the side out of the way, and I've got the top nut and the other end both disconnected. So now I can take this piece out, and just gets it out of the way, and that'll have a vinyl ring inside of it. Make sure I want to hang on to those. So looking nice and nasty. Get a towel to catch those water drips. And now I've got to disconnect this hose clamp right up here, and that's for the dishwasher drain. So okay, so I have the clamp loosened up, and that should just pull right off like so. Nice and nasty. Tuck it over here behind a pipe just to keep it out of my way. Also, good idea, have an old towel to lay down under here, because you're going to have this stuff dripping off, leaking out. It won't be a lot, but you will have some. So the next thing, you have this little tool that'll come with your new garbage disposal. And up here, this collar on the garbage disposal, you insert that little tool in there like that, and then you're just going to use it as leverage to give that a turn. And when you do, like that. Okay, so I've got it down, and show you what I was doing. So you've got your tool inserted in here, and all you're doing is you're turning this collar, and this rubber seals up against the top piece. And the reason mine was being stubborn is because it's just been sitting there for a long time. So what I had to do is move from this lug to this lug to that lug and kind of get it where it was moving a little bit, and then you literally just give it a, probably not even a quarter of a turn, and then it'll just drop right down off of there. And as long as you don't have any leaks or issues going on with your sink before you remove it, you shouldn't have to undo any of that collar system that's in place. It does come with a new collar and all of that, but I'm not going to bother with that because mine's in good shape. So I'm going to take my new insinkerator and put it right back in where this one came out in the reverse order. So hold it up there in place, turn the collar to tighten it up, make sure that my plumbing is lined up, and then hook everything back up. Okay, so before I get too far ahead of myself, this is the part that's in the sink. So the side that the garbage disposal mounts to be this side, and that rubber seal on top of it seals right around inside this cavity. So if you take some plumber's putty and you roll it out, kind of like a fishing worm, okay, and then you lay that in there all the way around before you put your garbage disposal up in there. That'll help seal up better and keep you from having leaks. So I just thought I'd show you that real quick before I get too far ahead of there. Be a good idea, especially if you're keeping the original part in your sink and you're just replacing the garbage disposal itself. So just a handy tip. Okay, so I have the garbage disposal in place. I don't have that collar completely tightened up, and that way I can still move this just a little bit. Be careful or I'm going to drop it right down off of there. So that collar, the more you turn it clockwise, the tighter it gets. So like I said, right now I just have it up there enough to keep it in place so that I can adjust this to get my plumbing lined up correctly. So the next thing I need to do, I've got this rubber O-ring that comes with the new insinkerator. It's going to fit right in there in that hole like such, and then this elbow with the collar and 2 screws, so that's going to fit on there on the face of that. I'm in the way of my light. That's going to fit on there, screw down, and then this will connect into my drain plumbing. So I'll probably have to trim some of the length of that off. It's going to be too long. It's going to drop down too far and there won't be any runoff. So I'll have to measure and trim that off. But I'll get that mounted on there, bolted down, trimmed off, get my plumbing set in place, and then I can go ahead and tighten that up, put my drain back on for the dishwasher, and hook up my electric, and I'll be set to test it out. So okay, so we're all installed. I've got this tightened up, this is tightened up. I did have to cut this elbow off, and I cut it off right about here so that it has the maximum depth that it can go, but it's got just a slight bit of runoff towards the other plumbing, which is what I wanted. I've got my O-ring in here and my 2 bolts tightened up. My dishwasher drain is back on, and that hose clamp is tightened back up. And then once that was all in line, I tightened up my clamp the rest of the way, or collar rather, and it only goes until it hits right here, and that's the maximum tightness. So I've ran the water. I don't have any leaks. I ran it on hot for several minutes. And the reason I used hot water is because that creates expansion and it'll exaggerate a leak. So anyways, no leaks. So the next thing is to hook up my electricity. I did have to, off of the old garbage disposal, I did have to steal the collar off the bottom, which it just unscrewed, but that protects your wiring where it goes into the garbage disposal. And once you've got your wiring in place, you can tighten this up on it, and it just keeps everything in place so you don't have a short. But other than that, everything came with the new garbage disposal except for that collar. So anyways, I'll get this wired in and test it out. Alright, we have success. Everything is working, running, and no leaks. Thanks for watching.